So would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Karrington Kenney. I am a 17-year-old upcoming senior at Milpitas High School, and I'm super vocal about injustices in general.
There has been a lot going on lately. Um, and I just want to, before we jump into anything, I want to get your initial thoughts on everything that's going on.
When I first saw this video, it didn't hit me as hard as it did maybe about the second day, because it was like everyone, then it started slowly getting larger and larger and going viral. And I watched the video again and I just kind of broke down because I kind of realized that I was so immune to seeing my people get killed on the internet, and it was just so often. And also because this time around, it wasn't one of my people getting shot. It was like he kneeled on his neck for 8 minutes while he sat up there, and he was saying that he couldn't breathe. Like, I don't understand how you can continue to do that and someone's obviously suffering. So I think it's just kind of like the realization to me, like I've become immune to watching people that look like me die. And I broke down and then I talked to my mom about it. And there is no answer to why it happens. Like there is no correct answer to it, or initial answer. So it's just kind of like you just have to deal with it. So that's how I felt at the beginning.
Yeah, I understand that. It's kind of the same thing with, mass shootings and this. It's like it's sad to say that it almost happens so often that when when a video comes up and we see it, it's almost like it gets brushed off. It's a
Mhm.
big deal for a few days, and then it just kind of falls, you know, under the rug. And
Exactly.
when I first saw that, I'm not gonna lie, it didn't hit me that hard on that day. Um,
Exactly.
and you know, it was kind of starting to get brushed under the rug again, and
Mhm.
then uh, just a lot of people kept it going viral and kept the power and the emotions there, and then it just blew up. And the first day of the protests, it that's when it really truly hit me.
Yeah.
I think it was viral for about a week before the protests really started.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I was just like, oh yeah, like, just like you, like after the second, third day rewatching it, I was just like, wow, this was messed up.
Mhm.
And then it really hit me in the emotions, when the protests started happening, and I'm just like, wow, this is real, this is happening, like. And then it turned into the biggest civil rights movement in history.
Exactly. Yeah,
And it's it's about dang time.
that's all I'm saying.
But so, as a community in the Bay Area, in California, in the US, what do we need to understand about what Black men and women go through every single day? Because, you know, I'm a white person who grew up in the suburbs. Like, I don't go through the same pain that Black men and women do, and the same fear. I don't have that fear. And sometimes for some of us really want to understand, but we just can't.
Mhm.
And can you just kind of just spell it out for us? Like, what do we need to understand?
For starters, it doesn't really matter what community you're in for a Black person because it can happen anywhere. So, I mean, even living in a pretty safe community in the Bay Area, I still see a cop and go up or like hold my breath a little bit. And that's just kind of the basics of it. I mean, um, at the end of the day, I mean, you see your people get killed by the authority that's supposed to be protecting you, and you're automatically just like everything tightens up and you hold your breath a little bit, just hoping that they don't look at you or see you and think that you're doing anything wrong when really you can just be minding your business. And I really just think people need to understand that that fear is just automatically not going to go away. and we have all this built up anger and fear of everything that happens daily. I mean, we get a new hashtag every other week because that's just how it is, and that shouldn't be what it is. And I just think that people need to start actually listening to us. Like, I mean, I think in the Black community, like we kind of joke about it now. It's just like we're like, oh yeah, like I hope the police don't come. Like we shouldn't even have to joke about that. Like it's literally become like a process. We're like, let's hope the police don't come because you know they're gonna grab us first. And it's like I hope they don't come because they're gonna grab me and I'm not doing anything. Like that's the saddest part of it all. And I don't think a lot of races think of it like that. I know there are obviously in other communities definitely like they might think like that as well, but at least being a white person or someone in a different community where you're not being targeted, I mean, you might not think of it like that, but in the Black community, for sure, it's like that's the first thought when you like hear sirens or even see a police officer. Like you hold your breath because you never know.
Wow. Yeah, that you're right. That shouldn't it shouldn't be a thing. That shouldn't be, you know, it shouldn't be a joke. It shouldn't be, something that you say. It shouldn't be a thing at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, have you noticed anyone who it seems like they might be scared or timid to say Black Lives Matter?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And what's what's your opinion on that? Like, do you think that people are scared to say, we were both at the same protest today,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody who was talking said, like, are you afraid to say the word black? And do you think that there are people out there who are just afraid to say it? Like they might mean it, but they're just afraid to say it.
Yeah, for sure. One thing for me is like I try to see it from both sides and kind of try to understand why people are quiet. So, I mean, for starters, in your home, it might be a whole different environment than what it's like at school. At school, it's super diverse, at least in Milpitas. And then you can go home and your parents are like, black is bad, period. And so that could be something that someone's constantly hearing, so it's like conflicting. And I get that. I completely understand that because I mean, everyone has history and everyone's different, and I understand. But it's like at some point, you have a choice to choose if you're going to be racist or choose if whatever is wrong is supposed to be fixed and if you're supposed to be using your voice to say something about it. So I definitely think some people are really scared to speak out because they think they might be wrong. But it's fine to stumble over yourself, and then because I'll come and educate you. Because if you say something and I know it's coming from good and like from a good place, I'm gonna tell you like, okay, I hear you, I completely understand, but here's the part that you're missing. And then usually from that part, they're like, you know what, I didn't even know that, but thank you for correcting me instead of putting me on blast for being incorrect. Like I get it, I do. So that's just one thing. I think people are definitely hesitant.
Well, yeah, that's one thing I kind of have noticed in, uh, there's been quite a few hot topics recently, and the common kind of social media response to someone who might have good intentions but saying something wrong is, no, you're wrong, like stop talking. And I really appreciate the approach you take where it's like, well, I see where you're coming from, but this is what you're missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like to see that
Yeah,
because sometimes someone could have the best intentions but they just say the completely wrong thing,
yeah,
and that's a good trait to have. I appreciate that.
perfect.
Because Lord knows I've said some dumb things from coming from great intentions, but just said some dumb things, and um, I've been put on blast a couple times, and it's not fun. It makes you want
Yeah.
to take it back. But diving into something a little bit more sensitive, I know the the fact that it's right now is not the time to be saying all lives matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to break down why we should not be saying that right now.
So I hear a lot of people saying that, and I think coming from a Black person, first of all, like, we're all just gonna be like, "Are you serious? Like, it's not about you right now." And I mean, the total of it, like, it really isn't about them right now. I've seen a lot of people on social media try to explain it, like break it down like you're gonna explain it to a kid. It's just like, oh, if one house is on fire and someone comes to take it out, and someone else is like, but what about my house? And they're like, your house isn't on fire. They're like, so my house doesn't matter. Like, we're not saying that. We're not saying that your life doesn't matter, but your life isn't in danger. Your life isn't like spiraling out of control because of the government that you're living in. So it's just kind of like, um, I hear them because all lives are supposed to matter. But as of right now, we're not treated like our lives matter.
Yeah.
So I just think people just really need to listen because I mean, at some point, you have to realize some people don't want to learn and they're not going to hear you. So it's like, that's where my approach is like, okay, try to see where they're coming from. Like, I hear you, I understand, because I know if I was on the other side and I didn't quite understand everything that was going on, I'd be like, well, what about my life too? Like, I'd understand because it's everything is not openly taught and not everyone goes through the same experiences. But it's just like you have to look, like you have to see for yourself what's going on. We're not saying that your life doesn't matter, but we're saying that our life should matter just as much as yours. And that's not the case right now.
I think the best analogy I've heard was you get home, a guy gets home from work and his wife is just like, "Honey, do you love me?" And he's just like, "Honey, I love everybody."
Oh, yeah.
And then, that and the house burning one, that those are the best analogies I've heard for that. But,
Yeah.
I the term right now, all lives matter, to me just is not correct. It's just not true
Hmm.
because it really seems like right now black lives don't matter as much, and that breaks my heart. But the people who say all lives matter, it's just an untrue statement.
Hmm.
And one thing I love that I've been seeing everywhere is when black lives matter, all lives will matter.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I absolutely love that I've been seeing that everywhere.
Hmm.
Not only is it just so true and it hits right to the point, but it kind of, that one statement shows you why that's not the right thing to be saying right now. Um, how have you personally been processing this?
It's definitely surreal. I mean, I don't want to say that and people will like blast me and being like, what do you mean surreal? Like this happens all the time. Like, no, I get it, but I think this is the first time that these protests have been so huge. Well, I'm old enough to kind of understand it. Because I know there was a huge thing when Black Lives Matter first came out, and that was I think in 2009,
I
2007.
want to
It
say
was
it
for
right.
Oscar Grant, and
Yeah.
but I was way younger. I was in elementary school, so I didn't even know any of this was going on. Now I'm 17, and I see all of it for myself, and it's like, oh wow, this is insane. And then seeing that all 50 states protested for this, and then seeing that other countries are protesting as well, it's kind of like it's refreshing, but it's sad that of the cause that why everyone is protesting right now. At first, I was so upset that people in my community weren't quite speaking out as much as I thought they would. Because I mean, not even gonna lie to you, a lot of people in my school say the N word. A lot of people are like, "Oh, look at this song," and it's like all rappers. They're like, "Oh, but look at my favorite basketball player. It's a black guy." And they're like, "Oh, football, like majority of the team's black." And they're like, "I mean, we're the top tennis players. We have the best golf players. Like we dominate in everything that we do. But then it's time for you to stand up for the black people in itself, and everyone gets quiet." And that really took a toll on me because it's like, I mean, how are you reacting to this? Because I had a whole breakdown once it kind of settled into me like, this really could be me at any point and there is no remorse. And seeing people be quiet was just getting to me. And then when I came back on social media and saw that everyone was furious, that's what kind of brought me back and made me realize that people actually do care about Black lives and they're realizing that. And I'm so happy because when the civil rights movement first came out back like 60 years ago, it was just Black people and that was it. But now it's everyone, and it's like kind of tear jerking seeing that because it's like, wow, like look at everyone like some people are even more mad than the Black people itself. They're pissed off, and I just kind of love seeing that people actually care about my life and my people's lives as much as we do. So,
This is the first time I've ever seen all 50 states agree on anything. And
exactly.
that
Agree.
that was beautiful. Like,
Mhm.
I I keep wanting to say it's about dang time, but there's a couple silver linings to take out of the current situation right now. And I think there's going to be a lot more positive things to take out of all this and huge things to take out of all this in the
Mhm.
future. But for right now, I love seeing the unity. I love seeing small but instant results. You
Yeah.
know, it's a beginning, it's a start, and
Mhm.
there's so much work to do. Um,
Exactly.
but And what one thing that kind of hurts me to see is people are just like, well, you don't need to have all these crazy protests to get your point across. And I have two responses. One, yes, because it hasn't been working in the past. And
Exactly.
two, do you really think all four of those officers would have been arrested if we were not protesting? I don't think so. I
Exactly.
really don't think so.
I think one other thing to consider is like saying, okay, so how do you suggest we get justice then? Because everyone's always saying, well, this isn't the way to do it. Well, then how do we do it? Because we've done it peacefully, and then we've had people go crazy. And either way, they're like, oh, well, why are you so upset about it? We finally got justice. I'm like, no, but look at the names of people who haven't gotten justice yet.
Yeah.
And then also, it's like, we have the right to be mad. Like, that's not fair. Like, I should not be scared to be in my own home. There's a situation for every single thing that any normal person is doing and that we get killed for. And I don't think people realize that. It's like, look at the facts. Like, we can't sit in our home and eat cereal. It's like, they'll kill us doing that. We can't walk to go swimming, and like they'll kill us doing that. You can't play video games with your kid. Like, they'll kill you for that. You can't sleep, can't do anything. And I don't think people are really digesting that. And I get you can live in different households where their parents are teaching you something way different, but at some point it's like, okay, um a basic human at some point would have some type of empathy and see that we're struggling and like this is insane. So I don't really know how exactly to get that point across to everyone, but I mean, we're out here. So I'm glad everyone's standing with us.
I'm It's amazing to see that. It's amazing to see everyone. And another thing is it's amazing to see not only all the different races but all the different ages.
Hmm.
I One of my favorite signs to see in a protest is I'm 60 years old and I still have to protest this crap.
Yeah.
I love it. And like I said, that's one of the silver linings of the current situation right now is the unity. And and you can really see the true character of people right now.
Hmm.
And who needs educating, who's past that and just don't want to learn.
Yeah.
And on that real quick, what do you do with the people who just don't want to learn? Do you just move on, or do you keep trying? What do you do?
Definitely on the first day, I was seeing more people, well, not more people, but definitely a couple of people that I'm supposed to be close with, post more about the looting and fires being made in Minneapolis. And I was like, wait, but you're not going to talk about where it's coming from? Because I mean, I don't condone people looting and burning things up, but at the end of the day, talk about where it's coming from. People are furious. I mean, don't just talk about this and say, oh, that's not the way to deal with it. I'm like, okay, well, tell people what you're talking about right now. I mean, tell people why they're doing it. They're not doing it for no reason. There's always a source to a problem, there's always something that happens. So
Well,
I argued about it with some people. And then at some point, I was like, oh my gosh, I think it's a breakthrough. And then they're like, oh, but I think it was an accident still. And I'm like, wow. So it's like right when you think you're getting somewhere, you just have to realize some people don't want to learn. And some
yeah.
people just, it's not going to click. So you have to kind of just let it go, or else you're not going to
I
stay safe.
mean, I mean, someone who says that an officer putting his knee on someone's neck while they're screaming for 8 straight minutes.
Mhm.
Someone who calls that an accident just doesn't want to learn
Exactly.
when they're past that. And you know, it is sad to see, because like you said, there are some people who we're close with, and because of social media, everything that's going on in their head.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's that's a sad thing to see. But I read an interesting post, and it it was basically saying like, yeah, there's riots, there's violence, there's looting, there's fires. That's gonna happen. Like, this has been pent up for so long, and George Floyd was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Exactly.
There's hundreds of years of pain and suffering that are behind these protests,
Mhm.
and this stuff, it's going to happen. And like you said, nobody condones violence, looting, burning down targets. No one condones that, but
Yeah.
like you said, you have to look at where it's coming from. And what's crazy is you could burn down a Target, you can burn down a Walmart. All that stuff is insured and it can be replaced. But the
Exactly. But our
people who, yeah, the
yeah,
people who are threatened and killed every single day, they are not replaced.
exactly.
And that's what people should be upset about.
Mhm.
Um, on that note, as a society, Bay Area, California, what do you think are some concrete steps that we can do, and especially the people like me who don't have to worry about this? What are things that we can do to concrete steps to move forward?
Well, to be completely honest, I really do think that we have to change the education system completely. Like we're missing vital chapters in our textbooks that people aren't understanding because I mean, some people are coming out of here and saying, the KKK wasn't made against the black people, and I was like, you didn't learn about that? Are you sure? And it was just kind of like, how do you not know this? And
Mhm.
there's things like a whole bunch of different things that happen in the black community and things that they don't teach little kids when they're young. They're like, oh, Columbus Day. I'm like, no, tell them what actually happened. I mean, that's where the ignorance comes from. I mean, unless you research it on your own, then some people just grow up and never know. And that's where we have the racist people who think that, yeah, my life, it matters too, and you should be able to make it out of wherever you're coming from. I'm like, no, like we were never made to be as equal as you. It's never been that way. If you look at history, it's never been that way. We've always had to work way harder to get to where we are. So it's just kind of like we definitely just have to change what we're teaching people, and it shouldn't be an elective. It should be a mandatory class that everyone needs to learn about everyone's cultures and where they're coming from, and how the government and how America in itself has evolved and built in systematic racism and a whole bunch of different things that are setting people back or maybe bringing more people forward. Because otherwise, we're just going to sit here and no one's going to learn anything. Because not everyone's going to see my Instagram post or all the Black people's Instagram posts. They're not going to see all that. They're not going to understand that. So it's just kind of like, I can't teach it to everyone on my own. Like, the school system has to start teaching people, or else it's just going to continue and continue. So I think that's one place to start for sure.
Is there any do you think there's any short-term actions? What I've been trying to do is, since I don't have to worry about this, I've just been trying to grasp and understand, um you know because my parents raised me pretty well, and I was always taught as a kid that everyone is equal. I grew up a Christian, and so we're always taught that every single person is God's children. Every single person is the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that has always stuck with me. And even then, until recently, I'm going to be honest, until recently, I had no idea what black men and women went through every day. I knew, I knew a bit, obviously I know the Martin Luther King civil rights movement. He was assassinated. Malcolm X was assassinated. There's still racism out here today.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I knew all that. That's all surface and obvious. But you go deeper. And then, like what you just said, it's like you can't play video games in your house without worrying about being killed. You can't go on a jog without worrying that you're going to be killed. And that's something I haven't realized until recently.
Mhm.
And it it completely broke me when I realized that. And I think that a few people have asked me, how can I help? How can I help? I put out a very public post and a video, and I was just like, well, anyone who wants to make a message supporting this, let me know. I'll do it for free. Um, and I also said, if you don't know how to help and you feel comfortable with me, reach out and we can talk.
Mhm.
And the first thing I tell them is, I'm like, you need to understand first. You need to understand,
Mhm.
especially if they're a white person. Be very honest, especially if you're a white person, Caucasian, the first thing you need to do is understand. And we'll never fully understand, but you need to do the
Mhm.
best you can. Uh, that's been my advice so far. Can you tell me if I've been doing the right thing?
No, you're for sure doing the right thing. I think some people also talk about, white privilege and how they didn't know they had it, or some people are still defensive about it. I mean, I'm not gonna say like it's not your fault that you have it. It's been passed down from century to century. It's just kind of something that's always been instilled in people. And it's just like, okay, but you just have to kind of realize that some people just have it better. Even if you have your own like personal struggles at home or anything, just you being a different color than me can give you more rights in general. Like you wouldn't see a police officer and hold your breath or like be scared that they're gonna try and shoot you or anything like that or profile you. Or for example, you could go to school and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go to this college for sure and I'm for sure gonna get in. And you wouldn't have to worry. Some people might not have to worry about money or anything like that. They're like, yeah, tuition's not anything. And some people, like black people, could get into a really high school and then be like, I can't really afford that though. So it's just kind of like there's a whole bunch of different things that play into privilege and just things that have been passed down for centuries, and it's not anyone's fault. At least, like not today. I mean, like you can't really choose to have it. It's literally just how America has been based. It's based on skin color. It's always been about race, and that's just what it is. Some people are like, "Why do you have to make it about race?" It's always been about race because, um, I mean, Black people have never been here to be equal with white people. We were here to work and we never asked to be here in general. So it's like we've always been set back. And I think people just need to start looking at the history, like look at it and really understand it. We're not blaming you for it, but it's just kind of like understand it so you can see where I'm coming from and then we can start from there. Because if you don't understand, then I can't teach you anything.
Most definitely, yeah. Um, can you talk briefly about our current prison system and how some describe it as modern day slavery? Can you get
Yeah.
into that a little bit? That's something that is not publicized. It's something that I do not see on social media. Um, it and it's something I think a lot of people don't really know about. Um,
Exactly.
can you just talk about that for a little bit?
Um, so I didn't quite understand that either until recently. Actually, it was like a year from like today. I had saw a Netflix series called When They See Us, and is basically about the four, I'm sorry, I think five Black boys who got convicted in New York City for a rape and murder of a white woman. And literally the process in which they got convicted was they raided a black community. They said, you, and you come with me to the police station. And they were about my age, younger, and a little bit older than me. And they were like, so you did this crime, right? And they were like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And they all end up getting convicted. They went to jail. And they were just like, we can just put it on them because they're black and they'll listen to us. And what I've realized is a lot of black people go to jail and they haven't done not a thing. And they place their bail super high. So for one, they can't get out because a lot of people are from poor communities. And then the government makes money off of that. And they have to work out the rest of their days, even if they didn't do something. Or if they did, they might get charged higher than a white person might have. So it's just kind of like it's literally slavery all over again, and no one's really realizing it. it's the same exact thing. Like we work for free, and some of like none of us deserved it. I mean, some people are in there for a reason, but a lot of us get convicted, and it was like you didn't do anything at all just because the color of your skin matched the description they were looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the end of
Well,
the day, it really is modern day slavery if you really look at it.
well, another thing I looked into, which just kind of adds insult to injury to that, is let's say your job is you help fight the fires and everything. You come in after the firefighters and you start, shoveling the land and all that stuff. It's a very classic prison job. Um, After you get out of prison, you have little to no chance of getting a job as an actual firefighter, even though you have more experience than most of the people who are applying for the job. And
Exactly.
that kind of adds insult to injury because now you have all this experience fighting fires, but you can't use it.
Hmm.
And you still have like a very small chance of actually getting a job. And, a lot of people have been calling for people who go to jails, they serve their time, and whatever job that they have there, kind of giving them a pipeline to do that when they get out of jail. Because another thing people really don't talk about is just because you're out of jail doesn't mean you're out of the woods. It
Exactly.
is not easy to get started, um, after you get out of jail. And,
Hmm.
some people will say, well, okay, don't do anything bad, don't go to jail. That doesn't really apply here because like
Yeah.
you said, people get sent to jail for doing nothing, and yeah, some of them did commit crimes, some of them do so, but there's a higher percentage of black people going to jail that did not commit the crime than I believe any other race.
Hmm.
And so not only is someone wrongly convicted, but then they have to work for free or for next to nothing at a
Exactly.
job that they can't use the experience for once they're out, and they get out of jail penniless and have to start rebuilding their life from
Something like
nothing.
a whole new world. Because some
Yeah.
people go to jail for years at a time, and then like some people, I read a story. He went in there in like 1970 and just recently got out. And look, there's a whole bunch of new stuff. Everything's different. Nothing's the
Yeah.
same. So like, let alone you haven't been into the real world since then, and everything's completely different, and you're not qualified to go into the job that you've been working so hard
Yeah.
for free actually. So it's just kind of like you have like little to no chance into making it your life into anything, because of the way the system's set up, and it's wrong completely. And so that's why we just have to keep marching. They're hearing us, they're making changes slowly, but it's like we need these people free now, because
Yeah.
you can't put people in jail for no reason and then destroy their whole life and think it's okay.
Yeah. And you know, brighter minds than mine have to figure this one out, but everyone who's in jail for having a little bit of weed on them, now that it's legal in most states, not only, in my opinion, not only do they have to be freed ASAP, but
Mhm.
you need to do more because they
Exactly.
literally went to jail for something that I can just have a 10-minute drive and go pick up now,
I
and
know.
hold it up in front of a cop as I leave the store and be
Mhm.
like, "Hey," and
Exactly.
and I don't remember the exact statistic, but it was something upwards of like 60%, where a black man or woman is 60% more likely to get arrested for marijuana than a white person.
Mhm.
And that kind of sums up the whole experience between police and black men and women, because like if they were truly unbiased and they were there to just to do their jobs, we would be arrested at the same rates, but we're
Exactly.
not. And there's so many statistics we could throw out there right now that just keep proving the point. But I want to do this. We're gonna close up, but I want to give you a chance to just say whatever's on your heart right now. Whatever you want out there. I'm just going to give you a chance to just say it. And I'm going to stay over here, stay quiet, and I'm going to do what I am calling everyone watching this to do, and to truly, honestly, really listen. Can you do that?
Yeah, for sure. Just to start off, I think people really underestimate how long Black people have been oppressed. It's been 400 plus years, let alone starting from the very beginning. We were taken from a land unwillingly to be brought to America to work for free, and we're whipped, we're raped, we're tortured, and just a million different crazy stories like Black women, gruesome, but it's real. So I think you need to hear about it. It's like Black women sometimes would have their babies literally cut out, and then the next day they'd have Black women feeding white babies with their own breast milk. It's just like, it's insane. It's stuff you need to hear. And although it sounds insane, it happened. And I think we really do just brush over slavery like it was nothing. And I know they don't really go in depth into everything that happened, but I think we need to, because people are not taking this seriously anymore. And not just from that, then we go into, okay, we're free now, and we fought for that, and then they're like Jim Crow laws, so y'all still don't have rights. So it's like, okay, so we fight for that, and then we fight in wars thinking, okay, we're going to serve for this country, and so we're going to come back and have a little respect. No, because Black veterans would come back and then still get treated like crap. And one Black veteran was on a bus and had asked, oh, can I use the bathroom? And then he got called the N-word and said, go sit back down. And he was like, I just risked my life for you. I'm not understanding why you're treating me like that. And he's like, are you talking back? And so he called the police, and that Black man was taken off the bus, and he ended up getting his eyes literally like gouged out. And he ended up blind, and that's a whole case, and I learned it in US history this year. So I was just kind of like, wow. So we served this country for some respect, and we come back with the same way we left. So it's like, I just think people really need to think about, yeah, we know your people served this country, but so did we, and we've done it for centuries now, and we still get no respect. Then we fight for civil rights, which was right after everyone got back from war, because they're like, are you kidding me? We really just fought for you guys, and you guys treat us like crap still. And then you do it peacefully, and they use the water hose on us. They use their dogs on us. They call us the N-word, and we still barely have any rights at this point. They're like, segregation, don't drink out of our water fountain. They're calling us dirty and stuff like that. It's like, we just have a little bit more melanin than you. Like, I'm not understanding why you hate us so much. And then, time goes by, and the Civil Rights Act gets passed, and everything's cool. And then they assassinate Martin Luther King just because we wanted to be treated like humans. And then it's just kind of like, it's a never-ending system or cycle of people not really understanding where we're coming from. Like, we're not trying to take anything away from you. We're trying to be seen as equal, like just like you are. We literally all look the same under the skin color and everything like that. Like, we're literally humans just like you. Time goes by, and now we're in modern times, and they found a way to still oppress us. It's like, we never got over that. And now people, seeing that we're so angry and that we've been holding this back the whole time, are like, Martin Luther King wouldn't want this. And I'm like, yeah, what he wanted was equality, and for all of us to just live in unison, and y'all killed him still, regardless. Like, you can't use that against us, and y'all killed him off still. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, you literally just proved your own point. Like, yeah, Martin Luther King wanted equality. Like, he didn't want all of this. He wanted us to be all equal by now, and you're not giving that to us. So I just think people really need to go into Black history and realize how much of an impact we have on America. And saying go back to your country does not work for Black people. We don't know. None of us know where we're from. It's just like, it doesn't work like that. Like, none of us know our native language. None of us know where we're from. So I think that's one thing for us too. Like, our roots are here. This is it. Because we don't know where exactly we're from in Africa. And it's sad, because people, I've asked them before, they're like, but where exactly are you from? I'm like, I don't know. I can't tell you that. Like, I'd love to know, because looking at other cultures speak to each other in different languages, it's like, wow, that's beautiful. I wish I knew where I was from. And it's like, I think some people get upset when you bring up slavery. They're like, are we still talking about that? I'm like, yeah, I still am upset about that. Because it's like, I mean, that happened, and then we're still being oppressed since then, and you're not understanding why I'm upset. It's like my grandma's from Birmingham, Alabama. That's like right down the street from everything that was going on in Alabama, like the boycott and everything like that. And she told me a story about her mom being a teacher, and a white man came into her classroom in the same way that we look at cops. She held her breath because she didn't know what was going to happen. And my grandma taught a little white boy how to read, and he was like, my son didn't know how to do that before, and he was actually nice to her. God bless, because if anything else would have happened, I would not be here. But it's just like, there's always going to be good people, and it's just like we just have to realize, like, look at the history. Like, we've helped you. Like, we've never done anything to try and take down whatever you have. We just want to be seen as equal. And it's like, we're not doing this just to do it. And I know there's a lot of things built into, or stereotypes for Black people, like, oh, you guys are thugs, everyone's like that. Da, da, da. No, there's so much built into Black history that's been twisted or not told. That's why people are ignorant now. And I just think people need to really look into where we're coming from, because it's not just out of the blue. There's so much built up anger and systematic racism in this country that people aren't seeing because it's not being told. Obviously, like, just like the George Floyd case, they were like, yeah, George Floyd died. I'm like, yeah. And now blast the police officers that did it, because they were just kind of holding back on it a little bit. And then you go on social media and everyone's speaking the truth, and the news is like sugarcoating it. Like, no, tell the truth. That's why people aren't understanding now. So, moral of story, just do your research and understand Black people, because we just want to be seen as equal like everyone else.
Wow. It's amazing that it's 2020 and this is still a conversation that we're having.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and close off on that because that's the message right there.
For sure.
So,
thank you for having me.
You are welcome on this podcast anytime.
I really appreciate it.